I'm fighting with these headphones here. Keep spinning around on me. Listen, I'm just a simple boy from Arkansas, from White County, not used to all this technology, okay? Boy, we're getting a lot of text. I'm so surprised. We got a handful here, some of which I don't think I can read on the air, but we got some interesting questions coming in on the text line. So would encourage you, if you'd like to be a part of the show, text in 501-403-5276, 501-403-5276. Clearly, some of you have this number saved because I can see some back history here, and some of you are very dedicated, not only listeners but texters to the Brad Schmidt Show. So, on behalf of Brad, I want to thank you for that. This is not Brad Schmidt, in case you're wondering. This is Nic Horton filling in for Brad Schmidt. I'm the founder and CEO of Opportunity Arkansas, and we'll talk a little bit more. We got cut a little bit short in the first hour with some technical difficulties, but we're getting back into our groove here. And I'll talk to you a lot about Opportunity Arkansas and some of the things that we're doing. But look, I don't want to just make this an infomercial today. But having said that, go to opportunityarkansas.org to learn more. But we're gonna talk about issues, and I know Brad does an amazing job talking about federal issues, and again has opened up, even my mind to some different things and ways to think about some of these issues. But I'm a state issues guy. I'm a state level guy. Opportunity Arkansas, we work at the state level on generational problems. So government dependency, poverty, a lack of workforce participation, a workforce that's not competitive enough. We were talking in the last hour quite a bit about the state income tax. I think it is horrible. I don't think we should have a state income tax at all, personal or corporate. I mean, let's be honest, because all of that money is ultimately money that's coming out of your pockets. And if you're a worker in Arkansas, and I hope you are, many of you certainly are, you pay a fee to state government for the privilege of earning a paycheck. And I think that's wrong. And by the way, the more you earn, the more you pay. The more you earn, the more you pay. And so what does that tell folks? What does it tell the next generation? What does it tell people who maybe never saw work modeled in the home growing up, and they go into the workforce and they start getting a paycheck, and then they look at their pay stub and they realize, I mean, my goodness, look how much state government is taking. And that doesn't include the federal government. Don't even get me started. But every time I earn more, I have to pay more in taxes? I mean, what kind of sense does that make? What kind of look, you've heard the adage, if you want less of something, tax it. Well, guess what? That's what we're doing with work. And we've been doing it for a really long time. And thankfully we're making some progress, but we still got a ways to go. Hey, we got a caller on the line, so I'm going to stop my tirade. And let's bring in Dave from Hot Springs. Dave, thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Oh, thank you. Hey, way back in the day, 10, 12, I don't even know, maybe 15 years ago, Sarah's father, Sarah Huckabee's father, he had the taxes on Arkansas, and it came out in the newspaper that we were 48th out of the 50 states. And next thing you know, he cut the taxes and also raised the hourly rate, income rate. And I said, man, that's awfully weird. He's not a real good politician to have to wait to do that. And thank God that his daughter oversaw all that. Maybe she remembered it and, didn't want to redo stuff like that.
All right, Dave, thanks for the call. I appreciate that a lot. I'm not going to get involved in the family affairs of the Huckabee family. But look, I love Governor Huckabee. I've come to appreciate him in a lot of ways. I think, look, it was a different time back then in a lot of ways. We had supermajority legislature that was, made up of Democrats instead of Republicans. And I think that would be the first thing. I don't want to speak for him, but I think if you talk to him, he would say, "Yeah, I'm pretty jealous of my daughter getting to come in with these supermajority conservative, House and Senate, where we can actually start to reduce the tax burden on Arkansans for the first time, really in history, from what we've seen, even just in the last 18 months." But yeah, look, I don't think we need more taxes. I think I've been pretty clear on that for the last 15 years or so since I've been running my mouth in the political world and the policy world. State government clearly takes too much. And look, that's what we've all been saying. And I think, again, not that this was directly Dave's point, but it just brings to mind, I think there's such a tendency, because of some of what happens at the federal level, because we feel as conservatives that we're just beating our head up against the wall and nobody's listening. There's a tendency to just kind of, I think, reflex into, well, there must be something wrong here. They must be up to something. They must be scheming. Yeah, we talked about this with State Representative David Ray. Yeah, they're lowering income taxes, but really what they're trying to do is they're just distracting us, because really they're just waiting. They're just waiting until we blink, and then they're going to raise sales tax, and they're going to raise property tax, and they're going to raise all these other things. And I hear that almost daily now. It is almost impossible for me. We do a lot of work at Opportunity Arkansas on income tax reform, and it's almost impossible for me to say anything about the income tax without someone coming back with this notion that, well, that's great, but. And a lot of times, the left says it's great, but you're going to cut services, which also has not happened, and I don't think is going to happen. But it's also, from the right, it tends to be, well, that's great, but I don't want my property taxes to go up. I don't want my sales taxes to go up. And I can promise you, at least as far as I'm concerned, and as long as I'm involved, that's not going to happen. Or if it does, we're going to let you know. And you heard it pretty clearly from, again, State Representative David Ray. I don't think he's interested in letting that happen either. He's on the House Revenue and Tax Committee. There hasn't been a tax increase. I don't even think there's been a fee increase, which, let's be honest, is a tax, in the last 4 years. And so, again, I don't necessarily trust politicians either. And I get where a lot of us are coming from, and I think there's a healthy amount of skepticism at times. But at times, I think as a movement, and this is a big rabbit trail, but I think as a conservative movement, it's just gotten really easy for us to just be mad all the time. And I just don't know what we're mad about sometimes, because in Arkansas right now, we're winning. We are winning. And I'm not, to quote President Trump, I'm not tired of winning yet. We got a lot more to do, and I think that's fine to point that out. But that doesn't mean we aren't making significant progress, unlike what we have seen at any other point in state history. We got another caller. Let's bring in David from Little Rock. David, what's up?
Hey, man, talking about these tax cuts. Personal property tax is a big deal with me because, you pay your house off, you pay your cars off. Do you ever really own them? You never do. Don't pay your personal property tax after your house is paid off for a couple of years, and guess what? Government's going to come get it.
That's right.
We need to put the gas, the pedal to the metal or whatever right now, step on the gas and get rid of a lot of this tax. We're taxed so much now. Yeah, I'm grateful every time they reduce it, but we don't need to stop, because we're taxed way too much. Every time you turn around, it's a tax here, tax there. all the money that our taxes go to, they need to sit down and look at every dollar that's spent and go, you know what? We're wasting our money putting taxes towards this over here because we've been doing it for 20 years and we've seen nothing. The government wastes so much money, and it seems like they never, ever go back and look at something and determine, hey, we're wasting money. They just keep putting more money in it, and then they want more taxes to start another committee or another, something. So, yeah, I'm all for what they're doing, and I hope they keep on and, don't stop now is all I got to say.
I totally agree. Thanks, David, for the call.
All right, buddy.
I mean, look, wholehearted amen as far as I'm concerned. We've got to keep the pedal to the metal, and we talked about that a little bit with State Representative David Ray in the last hour. But I think, again, look, let's be grateful for the wins that we're getting. And I don't mean grateful in like, oh, thank you, government, for giving me a little bit of my money back. I don't mean it like that. But I do think, like, look, this is tough work. Some of this is really hard because you've got and look, I'm going to go off into the weeds here, but I just want to tell you, as someone who's at the state capitol very, very often and is working directly with state legislators and executive branch folks, there is be careful how I say this. The deck is stacked against some of these folks. And I don't think I'm telling this audience anything that they don't know. The state bureaucracy, the state swamp, okay, is very, very powerful and very, very entrenched. And it is only, not all of them. I realize I'm speaking in broad strokes here a little bit, but just to make a point, their incentive in state government, largely, is to perpetuate their own existence. Think about if you're a state bureaucrat. If you solve a problem in state government, or if you solve all the problems in state government, why do we need you anymore? Right? And so the incentives are all wrong in a lot of these state agencies and in state government broadly to actually solve problems. And I know that's a rabbit trail. We're going to unpack that a little bit more when we come back. But I just want to put that in your head that, look, this is not just flip a switch and all of a sudden everything's fixed. Trust me, I wish it was that way. Nic Horton filling in for Brad Schmidt on the Schmidt Show. We got to take a quick break, and we'll be back. Oh, that's a great bumper right there. I like that. Now, I was homeschooled. I was never allowed to listen to that, but I recognize it. Nic Horton filling in for Brad Schmidt on the Schmidt Show. Hey, you guys are blowing up the text line and the phone line. Thank you for joining in. I don't know how Brad keeps up with all of this input. It's a lot, but I really appreciate you guys participating in the show. This adds a whole nother layer to what we're doing here today, and we're just getting warmed up. So if you want to be a part of the show, 501-403-5276. You can call or text. And don't forget, if you call in and you're a first-time caller, you're going to get a free hamburger from Wayback Burgers. I'm going to go out during the break and call in just so I can get a free hamburger and go to Wayback Burgers on the Chenal Curve in West Little Rock. And today only, you can get a free vanilla milkshake because it's the first day of summer and it's hot out there. So go get a free milkshake at Wayback Burgers on your way home from work. We do have Robert from Malvern on the line. Let's go ahead and bring Robert in. Robert, what's on your mind?
Well, I'd like to make a couple of points, and then I normally, with Brother Schmidt, Brother Horton, I would give a moment of levity. As long as we stop raising minimum wage, because every time minimum wage raises, it comes in 6 months. Well, in 2 months or 3 months, everybody else jumps their prices. So during that period, that interim, there's a deficit. And I think that what's happening is with the states surrounding us, some having no income tax, we will eventually get there just out of necessity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I hope you're right. I think you're right. I think we've got the wind at our backs. And to your point, I think this is what you're alluding to, I think, which is out of necessity, right? Like, because we have two bordering states that have no income tax, because Mississippi is going to 4%, because Louisiana is going down, Oklahoma is trying to cut their state income tax, Missouri's cutting their state income tax. We're going to have to keep cutting and putting money back in the economy and back into Arkansans' pockets if we're going to continue to compete or begin to compete even with some of those states. So thanks, Robert, for the call. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being a part of the show.
Levity?
Oh, yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear it. Yeah, I love levity.
It's a very important part. I'm a first-time caller today, but that don't count. Secondly, the reason that Brad is able to stay on top of this is ADHD. I'm seriously considering that Leroy yells squirrel when the texter goes off.
He wants you to yell squirrel, Leroy, if you could do that. All right. Hey,
No.
Did I get that wrong?
No, I said with Brad's ADHD, when the texter goes off, he's thinking Leroy yells squirrel.
Okay. All right. I got it.
Okay. You have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks for calling. We got another caller, Rich from Sherwood. Let's just keep the momentum going. Rich, what's on your mind?
I don't mind, lowering the taxes and stuff, but what I'm worried about is the education. I mean, I went and gave a person information on where you can get a book for like $2 or $3 for the Constitution that involves the Constitution and Declaration of Independence, and he was so thankful for it and everything else. And what I'm planning on doing is having him also look up the history involving Germany and Russia and two dictators of, Russia and Germany, and to get them to understand of what's going on in the United States.
Now, who is this you're talking to? Or you're giving this to somebody?
Giving it to a certain person, but I'm not going to say any names.
Oh, well, no, sure, yeah. I just missed the first part of your story there, but hey, I think that's good for you. I think that's really important. There's very few things that are as important as the Constitution and the Declaration. I think we'd be all better off if we were reading them early and often.
But it also involves, you see, of what most people don't know is that the skinheads joined up with the KKK.
Well, I'm going to have to take your word for that one, Richard. Thanks for calling in. I really appreciate it. Rich from Sherwood. This is Nic Horton filling in for Brad Schmidt on the Brad Schmidt Show, 102.9 KARN News Radio. We got a couple minutes left, about a minute left for another break. I want to encourage you to stick around. We got some really good stuff coming up. We're going to be talking more about tax policy. And look, I agree. I mean, I agree with everyone that's called in, texted in. We're getting some text here about, oh, and by the way, no, as far as I know, I'm not related to John Horton. Not really sure who that is. Apparently he was a singer. But we're getting some texts about property taxes and sales taxes. And I agree. Look, they should all go down. Okay. The sales tax, to me, sales tax is one that I'm not as worked up about because I think it's consumption based. It's fair across the board, right? Everyone pays the same amount. And there are certain things I don't think we should tax, sales wise, groceries, a handful of other things. But we don't have time to go on to all this, but stick around. We're going to talk more about tax policy when we get back on the Brad Schmidt Show. want to start singing. Y'all don't want that. Y'all don't want that. We're back. The Brad Schmidt Show on KARN 102.9 FM, KARN News Radio. Nic Horton filling in for the great Brad Schmidt. Excited to be here. I feel like every time I've kind of started to tell you all about Opportunity Arkansas, my organization, the phone lines blow up and in the text line and everything else. But the best way, let's be honest, the best way to learn about Opportunity Arkansas is to go to opportunityarkansas.org. You can go also on social media. We're on all the socials, all the social medias, except TikTok. We don't do the TikTok thing. We're not going to go there. But Instagram, we put out some really cool videos, frankly, I think, about stuff that's going on around the state, particularly the state capitol. We're getting in a little bit of a groove now of clipping out some interesting things that happen in legislative hearings and putting those out. We want to make those as easy as possible for the public to access so they can know what's going on in their state government. And that's a huge part of what we do, is try to inform and educate Arkansans, our neighbors, whom we know and love and care about, so that they have insight into how their money's being spent and how the people that represent them are representing them, or maybe not representing them, depending on your perspective. But go to Instagram, go to Twitter, at Opportunity Arkansas, at Op Arkansas. Go to Facebook. You're going to get different things on each of those platforms. A lot of times we're at the Capitol and we're twittering, Xing, whatever they say. I don't know. It really annoys me that they changed the name of it. I love Twitter. I'm at Nic Horton if you want to follow me. I hope you like politics and college football, because that's pretty much all I tweet about. But I love the platform. I love it's a great way to just share information about what's going on in state government. And that's what we do. So opportunityarkansas.org. Look, I tell people there are two simple things, two simple parts to our mission as an organization. We're a nonprofit policy organization, and we're committed to doing two really simple things: simplifying state government and solving generational problems. That's it. And that can take a couple different forms, several different forms, I should say. And there's a lot of different angles and aspects to that work. We do direct policy work at the state capitol. We write research papers. We do public opinion polling. We do talk radio shows. We write op-eds. We write original content as well. If you're looking for, and again, I know Brad really is an expert on the federal level issues. I used to be more in that space, but I'm frankly state government's so big. There's so many issues at the state level that I have my hands full just keeping up with what's going on in Arkansas. But, if I'm being honest, humble brag, as the kids say, I think we do a pretty good job. We cover a lot of ground with a very small staff, a very talented staff, but a very, small number of. Now, they're not small, like they're not like short people, right? But they're, we don't have tons and tons of staff. I think a lot of times people think we do because of the volume of research and information that we produce, which I'm very proud of that. But you can learn more at opportunityarkansas.org. And one of the big things we've been talking about here today, and we've been talking about for almost 2 years now at Opportunity Arkansas since we launched in the late summer of 2022, is the state income tax and getting rid of it. Because it's a punishment on work. And why should say, look, there's other places state government can get revenue. And I'm sympathetic. Look, believe you me, we've had some callers, we've had several texters talking about, well, why didn't state government just do less stuff? And I am with you. Trust me. Go look at our research. Go look at our web articles. But it's a balancing act of how we get there. And I can promise you we're making progress. We had a texter here not too long ago, 20 minutes or so ago, that basically said, well, is there any way to lay off state employees due to the labor shortage? No growth in the economy if no workers. Thanks for the tax breaks. And that's a great point. It's a really great conversation starter that we need to be having, because state government is too big. And we've made tremendous progress. We're going to continue to make progress on income tax reform, but it's going to get more difficult. And maybe, I hope I'm wrong. I hope we continue to have billion-dollar surpluses and it's not difficult at all to trim. But I can tell you one thing, because we've done the research. We have too many state employees. Some of these texts y'all are funny. But we have 2-to-1. Bottom line, we have 2-to-1 the number of state employees as Tennessee does. 2-to-1 per capita. So that's too much. Do we need mass layoffs? No. Do we need a state hiring freeze like Governor Sanders put in place day one in office? Yeah, we do. And we need to make sure that before we just start doling out state jobs, that we're getting a good return on that for the taxpayer. And if we're not, taxpayers need to get their money back. And there's been a lot of calls and texts about property tax and sales tax. I agree with all of that. And I think we need all of it. My only caveat would be, well, 2 caveats. Don't overlook the great things that are happening right now, because there's other good things that you also want. And again, I think as a conservative movement, we just have a tendency to just, well, that's nice, but what about this thing? Yeah, that's nice, but what about all this other stuff? And I'm with you. I tell people all the time, we're in a big hole. In a way, as a state, we've got generational problems with dependency. We've got generational problems with poverty. We've got generational problems of crime and a broken foster care system and a broken Medicaid system. I mean, you name it. And we've got work to do, and we're doing work. But it took, I've described it as we're digging a hole. We've been digging a hole for 150 years. Governor Sanders gets elected. We get supermajority conservative legislature. And that was the moment where we put the shovel down, right? We stopped digging the hole. And now we're starting to climb our way out. But it's not going to happen overnight. And of course, I say that, and here we are, third round of income tax cuts in the last 18 months. Some of it feels like it is happening overnight, and that's even better. But we got to be patient on some of this stuff, and I'm saying that as a dad of 2 kids under 7. I'm learning I'm learning a whole lot of new things about patience. And teaching a whole lot of new things about patience. But as far as property tax and sales tax, I agree with all that. I just think we have to prioritize. We got to be patient and we got to prioritize, because right now the momentum is income tax. And right now we've got 2 surrounding states that have no state income tax. As Representative David Ray said, they've been kicking our tails economically for far too long. And by the way, there's no reason for it. I've been to Tennessee. I was born in Tennessee. I mean, don't tell anybody because people think I was born here. It's a big, I guess that cat's out of the bag now. But I've been to Tennessee. It's a beautiful state. Tourism, natural resources, mountains, bike trails, music industry. Wonderful place. But it's not Arkansas. There's no other place like this. I think it's the best place on earth. There's nowhere else I would live and raise my kids and my family. And when you look at our people and our natural resources and our communities and our industries, I'd put them up against Tennessee every day of the week. But what's holding us back? It's our income tax. It's our regulations. It's our state government in a lot of ways. So we got to get that figured out, and we're working on it. Nic Horton with Opportunity Arkansas filling in on the Schmidt Show. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Schmidt Show, 102.9 KARN News Radio. If you want to be a part of the show, you can text in 501-403-KARN. That's 501-403-5276. We got a lot of texts here. Haven't had a chance to read through all of them. Somebody says, "Wow, you're from Tennessee. I love North Tennessee and Paris." Yeah, it's a great area. I love all of Tennessee. But my point is, and we're going to talk maybe more about this in the next segment. We'll have a guest here in studio. When you look at Tennessee and you look at their natural economy and you look at their industry and the Smoky Mountains and Nashville and everything else they got going for them, I mean, it is a great place. It's a great place. But I just think there's no reason that Arkansas can't be that. I mean, there are some things that are holding us back from getting there, but I think they're largely fixable. I think they're largely self-inflicted problems in a lot of ways, rather. And we talk, I've been telling you a little bit about Opportunity Arkansas. This is our whole mission. I mean, and I was saying earlier in this hour how, sometimes state government bureaucracies, they've got a, incentive in a lot of ways to not solve problems because it's job security. Well, I kind of think of my job as the opposite. What I do day to day, trying to fix our tax code, trying to fix our broken education system. And we'll talk more about that, a lot more about that in the 4 o'clock hour. We made some significant progress in that area just in the last 18 months. But I'd like to work myself out of a job, to be honest. I mean, I tell people that a lot because I think a lot of these problems are just really, they're big, right? I mean, they're not easy to fix, but they're simple. They're simple. When someone can live in Texarkana, Texas, instead of Texarkana, Arkansas, and not pay state income tax, and actually that's a bad example because you may not know this. A lot of people don't realize, but actually if you live in Texarkana, Arkansas, you don't pay state income tax. And you know why? Because at some point along the way, the state legislature realized, oh gosh, like if people could move across the state line like a mile and not pay state income tax, they would probably do that. So we should probably just get rid of the state income tax for people who live in Texarkana, Arkansas. And that's what they did. And good for you if you live in Texarkana, Arkansas. But what does that say about, like, what kind of admission is that about the effect of an income tax? That it pushes people out. And that people are encouraged and incentivized to live in places that don't have that. That's just one of many things. We're going to talk a lot more about these generational problems in the next couple hours. We touched briefly in the 2 o'clock hour when we were talking with State Representative David Ray about this, quote, educational rights amendment that's being circulated, and the fact that the people pushing that amendment, which are the teachers union and their allies, by the way, but the fact is that those people pushing that amendment, they cannot tell you to this day, and we have audio, we'll get to this in the 4 o'clock, the second half of the 4 o'clock hour, where as recently as this week, they said, we don't know. We don't know what it's going to cost. We just want people to sign the petition, and then, we'll figure out the cost later. We're working on it. We got some economists, some really smart people working on it. And I've compared it to this Nancy Pelosi mentality of governing. It's like, you guys remember when Obamacare was being debated, Nancy Pelosi said, well, we got to pass it first to find out what's in it. Got to pass it first. That'd be some great audio. It's short, but it's just, we got to pass the bill to find out what's in it. That's what they want you to do with this silly, crazy, radical education, quote, education rights amendment that they're circulating right now. And they're saying a lot of things about what it would do and what it wouldn't do. But a lot of those things they're saying are just not true. I'm going to be honest. And we're going to dive very deeply into that topic when we get back. We're going to be joined by an expert on all of this. Gary Newton of Arkansas Learns is going to join us in studio. And we're going to get his thoughts on the Educational Rights Amendment of 2024. Stick around on the Schmidt Show.